So we've now started this, and uh, I just maybe what we could do is just get started with just a brief introduction from Ruchika and myself, just so that you have an understanding of our own professional experiences as well, and I guess where this webinar is coming from, and then we can take it forward. So, Ruchika, over to you for your introduction, and then I'll take it ahead.
Thank you, Kamala, and thank you, Ruchika, for having me and Kamala do this for all the other mothers who are experiencing what we've all experienced. Um, so I'm Ruchika. I'm a clinical psychologist, and it's been now 12 years since I've been practicing, mostly in Delhi. But since COVID came in, I think mental health became more accessible online. So we also do online sessions. I have a team who works with me here in Delhi, and for online sessions, of course, we are open to across the globe. And I became a mom on 11 Jan, so I'm looking forward to completing 1 year with my twin boys who are very, very, very naughty, extremely naughty boys. And yeah, I'm very excited to share a lot of, though it's not an exciting topic, but I'm sure all of you would have something to take away from today's discussion. I've done postpartum depression seminars before, but this is special because, when you practically go through something similar, you relate to it more. So I would at some point share my experience as well during the webinar. Over to you, Kamala.
Thank you. Thanks, Ruchika. Um, Hi, again. I am a mental health professional as well. I'm a psychologist and narrative therapist, and I have been practicing now for a little over 16 years. And a large part of my time and a large part of my work has been in what you would call public mental health. So I've worked a lot with the government. I've worked a lot with, with Indian psychiatric institutions, government hospitals, and a lot with people who live below the poverty line or live in states of homelessness. So that's been a large bulk of my work. And in the recent past, about 5 years ago, set up my own organization focused on increasing and improving access to mental health care, particularly for people from vulnerable groups. Um, and it's been quite a journey going from working in public mental health in that space to kind of being an entrepreneur and setting things up. And now I think the newest part of this journey, much like Ruchika said, is one of undertaking that of being a twin mom. And we I have twin daughters. They just turned 7 months old. They were born in May this year. And so it's a journey of learning and unlearning, I think, a lot of things through this process. But yeah, this is just a little bit about my own professional background. And without any further ado, I'm just going to get started into, I think, why we are here today. And if I may, I think the idea of this group, it's funny. At least my side of this story of how it happened is a little funny because I kept seeing on our main group, on the Twins Tribe group, I kept seeing people sharing their experiences around their moods, people sharing experiences of their distress, people sharing experiences of, or rather having questions also about, is this normal, is it okay to feel this way, or what should I do, and this is what's happening. And what really stood out for me was the level of empathy and care that stood out from the entire group on these experiences. And I had kind of made this little mental note to reach out to Ruchika, as in, Twins Tribe Ruchika. I had made out this little mental note to be like, you know what, reach out to her because maybe there's something more that we can do here. Reach out to her and see if there's some more additional support that we can offer. And I kid you guys not, it was within a few days of me thinking of this mentally and, me telling my husband that, hey, my husband is essentially my partner at work as well. So I was telling him that, I think I should reach out to her and we should have a conversation. Within 3-4 days of that, Ruchika actually texted me saying that, hey, you know what, there's something I've been thinking about, and, I want to bounce these ideas off you guys. And what do you guys think? And that's when both the Ruchikas and I had a call, and we kind of decided that, okay, let's maybe do something like this. Let's maybe set up a support space. Let's, initiate this conversation. And that's how this whole journey came about. And I feel that in many of these, in my experience working in mental health, I think the biggest um I think the biggest challenge, in many ways, lies in the fact that a lot of these terms that we use are very overused. There, people talk about it a lot. People, make mentions of these terms a lot. So, for example, depression is a word that's become very common parlance, right? Feeling low, being OCD has become very common parlance. So, all of these things are very used, but then we don't necessarily understand exactly what we mean when we speak of these experiences. And sometimes it becomes particularly harder when we may think that we're going through that experience ourselves, right? And so it can feel a little alienating. So I would say that the first part of what we're trying to do here today is to just remove this shroud a little bit, remove this shroud of what are the baby blues, what is postpartum depression, what is postpartum anxiety, what are some of these words really, could these be certain experiences that I'm having, so this is just a little bit about, I mean, that's what we're going to focus on a little bit today and start off with. And we have just a few slides, just so that, because we thought that it would make it a little easier for us to, we thought it would make it a little easier to kind of stay with the subject, and stay with what we're talking about. And essentially, as far as we are, just give me a minute. Are you guys able to see my screen yet?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I'm just going to put it on presentation mode. I think you should still be able to see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I think that, it goes without saying that this whole process of becoming a mother is just one that's transformative on many, many levels. And it's transformative because you've literally brought new life into this world, and in our cases, not one but two new lives into this world. And so there's actually three people being, there's three people being born at the same time, two babies and a whole new version of yourself, right? And coming to terms with that new version of yourself, with that version of needing to be a caregiver, with the version of needing to be switched on all the time, being present all the time, being engaged all the time with these two beings, is a whole different ball game. And add to that, we have, at least in our Indian context, and that's where we are, so I'm focusing a bit more on that. We have the entire we have the whole cultural, sorry, just a second, somebody is joining into the meeting, so I just needed to zoom out of that. Give me a second, please. I'll just admit them and then we're good to go. Yeah. So the entire cultural expectation of motherhood in India is a very female centric, female role led orientation that requires the mother to prioritize the family's need, prioritize all of that over herself. And this is not to mention the additional tolls that may come from being largely a more patriarchal society, largely a society that's more driven in that sense. So, for a new mother who is weighing and handling all of these new responsibilities and handling everything else around her, her babies, herself, trying to find time for that self care, trying to find time, forget self care. When I say self care now, I mean maybe getting an hour's sleep, right? I mean maybe taking some time to wash our hair, right? So simple things like that have become almost Herculean tasks. And so in our space, trying to find a sense of community, whether that's family or whether that's through hired support, is something that becomes absolutely essential in order to be able to manage this new shift. So coupled with this are all the hormonal changes. I'm sorry if what I'm saying comes across as really, really basic at this point, but the reason I'm stressing on it is because all of these building blocks literally add into that emotional experience and add into what may or may not be the baby blues or may not be postpartum depression or anxiety. So the hormonal changes that women go through, particularly after delivery, those few days after delivery, is a very, very large crash. And you have your estrogen and progesterone levels which drop dramatically. And that leads you into lows, leads you into the sense of the baby blues, feeling like, you're not entirely feeling like yourself, a large hormonal roller coaster, and, highs and lows. So it can be a pretty disorienting experience. Add to this the physical construct, the physical toll that child rearing, just the whole pregnancy and childbearing takes on bodies. That's an entire toll in itself. And then the psychological element of the new identity of being a mother, questioning their adequacy, and all of the pressures that come around it. So, all of these, if you look at it, there's this nexus of your hormonal change, your physical state, and your psychological changes and shifts that come together in that affect our mood, affect our mental health, and affect our daily functioning and daily living. Sorry, I think somebody raised their hand.
That's me, Kamala.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm
You
not
know,
able to see your face, but I can just see a ping. So,
okay, okay. No, next time, yeah, I think you only see the hand raised, but not who's raising the hand. I'll just add on to it. I feel nobody talks about what happens after you deliver a baby and you're going home. Everybody, your gynae is only talking till the time you're in the hospital, you're admitted, you have your baby out, and that's their job is done. What nobody prepares you is, of
yeah.
course, there are lactation consultants who come and they talk about feeding and latching the baby, all of it. But I remember on the third day, I was like, can I extend my stay because I don't think I'm ready to go back home. And that's so cute. And I feel when nobody talks about things that you need to be ready about, you it just becomes more daunting because
Yeah.
especially most of us who have gone through CSEC, I don't think we ever got a chance to recover completely. And once you go back home after 3 days, I think that's the normal time everybody stays and then goes back home. You have no time to look at yourself because then it's all about, okay, now you have to feed. Now you have to feed two babies. You have to establish feeding. The hormonal levels, like you were talking about, goes really down. I think most of us were sweating through the first week, and then we are also still bleeding. So, that whole elation of congratulations, you've had babies and all of that ends in that time of you being in the hospital when visitors flock in and want to come and everybody wants to congratulate. But what is the aftermath of it? Nobody talks about. And I think that's where the challenge starts. That everybody is in a different mind state. Everybody is excited to welcome the baby. Everybody is happy with the addition of the babies in your life. Nobody is talking about, okay, how's your recovery going? Or how your recovery looks like for the next 1 week. All that I knew after discharge is that I have to come after 10, 11 days to just get my stitches checked. That's it. So that just adds so much more to a woman feeling that nobody is able to relate to what they're going through, except I feel mothers maybe. Um, yeah, so that's just what I wanted to add.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, Ruchika, for adding that. I think that's such a relatable and valid point that you make. That the focus is not on the woman at all. The focus is not on the mother, and there's very little preparation, right? There's no mental prep that we are able to do for a part of this journey, isn't it? That just because it's opaque. You're told to be really excited to be the mother. You're told to be really excited, and you are. You're probably very excited. And all of that, but you're not prepared for all of these shifts. You're not told about the fact that, hey, you know what, you may feel this way, and it's really okay if you do. It's really okay if you don't feel great. It's really okay if you don't know exactly what to do the minute you see your babies. That's fine, right? So that sense of pressure isn't taken away. And I wanted to share a small statistic here, which is that postpartum depression, so the baby blues, as people call it, it's just something I'm just going to move ahead to. The baby blues is something that tends to happen. It's a very temporary emotional change that happens. It's what we spoke about in this hormonal roller coaster, where essentially you may feel a lot of things. You may feel really great at periods of time. You may feel really low. You may not be able to sleep. So there's all of that that's happening. Now that tends to happen to about 75% of mothers, and that happens and usually will just taper off within the first 10 days or so. And that's what you call the baby blues. You call it postpartum depression when it's something that's a lot more severe, when sorry, Ruchika, did you raise your hand? Or is
No,
that your
no,
old hand? Okay. All right.
old, but good. We got a second. I think nobody can see the presentation.
Oh, you're not able to
Yeah,
see it?
no,
Is everyone not able to see it?
I
Yeah, we
can't.
are not able to see it.
It's not visible.
Okay,
No,
hold
can't
on.
see.
Okay,
I
hold
think
on.
you have shared it when you were checking who raised the hand, which was me.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys for flagging that off. Okay, I will put that back on in a minute, but before I put that back on, I'll just go ahead to share what I was going to say, which is that while 75% of moms may go through the baby blues and these shifts, the fact is that 1 in 10 women are likely to have this much, much more severe. And recent studies, and this is something that I was actually just going through just out of interest of being a twin mom, I kind of saw that the number of twin mothers who have postpartum depression is significantly higher. Twin or multiple mothers, people, multiple parents of mothers of triplets or quadruplets. Of course, twins are the most common, so I'm using the term twins, but essentially, mothers of multiples tend to have postpartum depression. Likelihood is much higher than the mother of a singleton in that sense. And this is simply because the whole journey of a twin mother tends to look quite drastically different than the journey of a parent of a single mother. I mean, sorry, of a mother of a singleton, not a single mother. My mistake. Let me pull out the slides again, guys. Just let me know if you can see it now. Are you able to see this slide?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, is it the full screen for everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, I'm sorry for a slide that looks a little bit more jargonified and academic, but I just wanted to put together the information that, I thought was, essential and what we thought could be useful just for people to make sense of the experience a little bit more and differentiate possibly what they may be going through. As we said, the sense of the baby blues is pretty temporary. It probably lasts a week to, at the very max, outset about 3 weeks. It's just something that stays. It's not something that you would feel is very intense. You're able to go about your daily life. And this, hear me out, this is the, I would say, one of the most crucial factors that helps a psychologist or a psychiatrist make what you would call a diagnosis, because the crucial factor is that, is this impacting your daily living? Is this impacting, is your mood state, is the way that you're feeling, Is it impacting your ability to go about your daily tasks and what you need to do, and this could be things that are as simple as, taking a shower, or doing your cooking, or just getting out of bed. It could be any of these things, right? So the baby blues temporary happen to approximately 75 to 80% of new mothers globally. And that's something that's very transient. Postpartum depression, on the other hand, is something that's only diagnosed if there's a severity for 2 weeks or longer. So typically, you should have been feeling a significantly low mood, a significantly depressed mood, probably had struggles of bonding with your baby, not feeling interested in anything. And this could be like a loss of interest in food, in just being in like taking a shower, in getting dressed, in feeling really excessively tired. I'm not going to say tiredness is a universal construct after you have babies, I think, but this is a tiredness that absolutely makes it absolutely unable for you to function in any way, feeling worthless, comparing yourself, and can sometimes even look or sound like thoughts of either harming yourself or thoughts of harming your baby. And some of these, when these occur, and when these have happened for a consistent period of time, and when I say consistent, it should have been there. You should have had several of these together for at least 2 weeks. When this happens, you would predominantly most likely be given a diagnosis of postpartum depression. Now, this, as you can see on this slide, affects approximately 15 to 20% of mothers worldwide. And in India, the numbers are actually a little higher, just because of a whole range of other structural constructs and issues that we have here, like the cultural factors that I was mentioning. And for this statistic is a little different for twin moms, because it's about 20 to 25% of twin moms who find themselves experiencing postpartum depression. Now, postpartum anxiety is a little bit different from postpartum depression, because here we're talking about having a whole range of a lot of constant worry, a lot of possibly, very intrusive thoughts about, is this going to happen or no? I'm, probably, simple things like, holding your baby may make you feel like, oh my God, I'm going to smother this baby. I'm going to drop this baby. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm not going to be able to take care. And to an extent where it compromises your ability to care for your baby, you're constantly scared. You may be having a lot of panic attacks. And this is something that is typically ongoing. So it happens over a consistent period of time. The diagnostic criteria for this, while they do say, the traditional diagnostic criteria does say a minimum of 2 weeks, but now there's a lot of talk about changing that diagnostic criteria to say that, what, it needs to have been going on for a little bit longer than that, because it's a little difficult for people to distinguish between uh, your ongoing level of very generic anxiety which comes with having a child, and the fact that it's impairing your daily functioning. And then you have, so these are two conditions that can happen post having a baby. And then you have the third condition, which is postpartum psychosis. And this is very rare, because psychosis is what you would call a severe mental disorder. And this is where one essentially has something called a break from reality. So you may experience things like hallucinations, where you may hear sounds that are not present, or see things that are not present, or hold a lot of false beliefs that are not true. You may be very disoriented or very confused, maybe kind of feel a little bit more paranoid about your situation around you. And this typically happens within the first week of giving birth. It's quite a rare condition. It happens independently. It's quite rare, but it's included here because it's a mental health condition that typically does happen only post birth. Ruchika, anything you want to add on to this? Anything you'd like to share as well?
Yeah, what I feel after my experience of being a mom, what I'm gonna say is that do not confuse not getting time to do things that interest you with lack of interest in doing those activities. For example,
Absolutely.
I love watching TV or I love reading books, but I think in this past 1 year, all that I've done is made a list of shows that I've missed watching, which just lies in my phone notes. Not been able to pick up a book. but I always feel that I want to do it. I'm just not getting the time to do it. So
Yeah,
even if you've showered for 2, 3 days, because you've not gotten the time is absolutely okay, as long as you don't feel like you don't want to take shower, you don't
yeah.
want to watch, you don't want to do things that you really enjoyed, you don't want to sit and talk to friends or family. So there's a difference between not getting time and not having the interest as an intention or a drive to do certain things. So don't confuse these two things. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ruchika, for that. That's a very key difference here because, frankly, as a new mom, you are not going to get the time to do many of these things, right? You're not going to get the time to do many things. But the key differentiator would be that, let's say, you have a meal that you would really, enjoy. For instance, I absolutely love French fries. Like French fries are life for me, in general. And
That's the
and
only
that,
craving I had.
oh, is it?
Yeah, only
Okay, well,
craving.
yes. So let's say you absolutely love French fries like we do, and it's something that you really enjoy. It's something that you really look forward to, and suddenly that plate of French fries just absolutely doesn't interest you. Suddenly you couldn't be bothered about those French fries. You don't want it. Sometimes, you're just like, just take it away from me. I don't even want to see this, right? So when you lose interest in something that would otherwise give you a lot of joy, when you lose interest in your basic elements of, let's say, like Ruchika said, like hygiene, or let's say you're like let's say you just tell yourself that, oh, the sound of it just is awful, I don't even want to go there. That is how you would differentiate between having maybe a sign or a symptom of PPD. And I think maybe this slide could help us a little bit more in distinguishing a little bit between the key signs and symptoms and just the experiences. And here I just want to take a minute to say that, a sign is something that somebody else outside of you can actually see, right? So for example, if Ruchika and I are together, a sign is something that if she looks at me, she can see Kamala behaving in a certain way. That's kind of external. Whereas a symptom is something that only I know. So for example, Ruchika may be able to see that I have not taken a shower because, I look like, really unkempt and I haven't taken a shower. But she may not know that I'm also not sleeping. She may not know that I also feel like, oh my God, I really don't like my baby. Like I feel like I'm not, able to connect with my baby. I want to connect, but I'm not able to connect. I want to feel good, but I'm not able to. So she may be able to see one thing, but may not be able to see another. But that doesn't mean that experience is not there. That's with me. So that's why we're putting these together, because I want to just help people reflect a little bit on, it's not just about what somebody else notices, but it's also just about what you may be experiencing yourself. And that's very, very valid, because in our setup, in our households, talking about some of these feelings, particularly as a new mother, is a very, very difficult thing to do, because there is so much pressure to be really excited about it, feel this immediate rush of love and connect for your baby, know automatically what you need to do. I don't know if how many of you guys heard this, but I was told countless times that, oh my God, a mother just knows. And I had 100 people asking me, oh, why is she crying, what is happening? And I'm like, boss, I don't know, this is really new to me as well. Like I'm also just figuring this out, right? So these symptoms and signs can be very difficult for us to talk about. They can also be difficult for us to notice. But if we were to look at it, the first one, emotionally, I would say the biggest one is, are you feeling persistently sad? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling kind of like, oh my God, everything is hopeless, everything, there's like really no meaning to this, like what am I doing, what's going on, or I can't do this, I can't. And again, like I just want to differentiate the fact that, yes, when you are possibly a first time mother, or even a second time mother, I think there are always there's a little bit of feeling like, oh my God, am I going to do this well enough? Am I going to, be able to manage this? Because you want to do the best that you can, right? That's a little different from feeling persistently that, oh, I'll never be able to do this. This is never going to work out. I'm going to be a horrible mom. I'm never going to be able to, I'm never going to be able to take care of this baby. So that would be a persistent feeling of inadequacy, right? Or feeling like you can't do it. So these are some emotional symptoms of of postpartum depression. Then there would be the cognitive symptoms or the thought related symptoms, which are the fact that you're not able to focus on what you need to do. You may not be able to make decisions around maybe like the kind of care that you need to have for your baby, or maybe what your baby's routine needs to look like, or what even your routine needs to look like. And again, here I know that this sounds a bit murky because I'm just going to talk about my own experience here. I really struggled with concentrating after giving birth. I mean, there were hundreds of things that I literally just forgot. It just went like out of the window just because I was so focused on other things. It was not really a part of that. But that's a little bit different from a persistent difficulty to just focus on what you are doing or what needs to be done ahead. Okay. Um, the other thing is an external behavioral sign, which is that maybe you tend to withdraw a little bit more into yourself. You're okay to kind of not engage with your baby very much. You just withdraw from your baby, withdraw from family. You don't want to be around anyone. Also, possibly feeling other physical symptoms like extreme fatigue. You may have a lot of neck ache, body aches, back aches, headaches. So that's a lot of, physical manifestation of these symptoms. Severe loss of appetite, lack of sleep. So these are some symptoms of postpartum depression. And if these have been present, or if you're noticing that these have been present for at least 2 weeks or more, then it's worth having a conversation with somebody with. Ruchika, anything you want to add on?
I think anger is another point. A lot of irritability and anger to
Yeah,
an extent that you feel that you might harm the baby. Like, I've had mothers who have come in for sessions where they're carrying videos of how they have, in anger shaken their baby or just, put them away. And of course, there's a lot of guilt followed by that anger, but a lot of anger
absolutely.
and irritation, which is there's a fair amount of irritation we all have when you've just gone off to sleep, and then in 20 minutes the other baby wants to be fed, and then you again try to
Yeah.
sleep and the baby, and then one baby cries, the other cries. So there's some amount of irritation that exists. However, if it reaches a level where you are harming the baby in anger, is another major sign of postpartum depression.
Absolutely. And it may not even go to the extent of you actually harming your baby. It could also be the thoughts of harming yourself or your baby. The fact that, you may think of, things like I have had people who've been my clients who've in the past said things like, oh my God, I just thought that I just wanted to smother this baby, because I just could not handle the sound of this crying any longer, or hey, what if I just like roll this baby off the bed, nobody will know what happened, right? So thoughts like that. And I know it sounds very morbid, but it's not pleasant at all for the mother who's experiencing it either, and like Ruchika said, there's a lot of guilt that comes alongside that, alongside some of these thoughts. Or it could also be thoughts of self-harm, thoughts of harming or cutting oneself or hurting oneself in some ways. So these are also big signs of postpartum depression. Um, okay. All right. I just noticed that we're at 4:45 right now. So we have till 5:30, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, Kam.
Yeah. Okay. So right. So these are so guys, just to just to share, the way that we had kind of structured this was that we would just do this initial information sharing first, and then we would open it out for specific questions or challenges or things that people would want to raise. So I am going to now largely wrap it up from my end in terms of just the sharing of, what some of these conditions look like. And maybe, Ruchika, handing it over to you to share a little bit on what possibly postpartum well-being could look like, and how we could, what some of the simple strategies that we could try to bring in. While I say simple, I do understand that as a parent, none of it seems very simple right now, because scheduling, finding time, all of this, but we're going to do our best to share things which are as easily accessible as possible.
Perfect. Um, I think most important is when we talk about the well-being part of postpartum depression. Kamala has shared, I think by now we're all aware and would be able to kind of self-diagnose ourselves a little bit as to, has it been more than 2 weeks that you've been feeling significantly low in terms of your mood, in terms of your appetite, in terms of your sleep, in terms of your interests, and in case, like, I don't want you to raise your hands here, in case you feel that, this is something that you're struggling with, both Kamala and I'll be very happy if you'd like to connect with us post this session. We are also planning to continue, like Kamala had mentioned in the beginning, that we would want to see you guys more often, once or twice a month, so that we are there to support you through this. um but just to give you a very brief about what well-being can look like, I'll begin with something that's very, very simply, a lot of people say that sleep when the baby sleeps, and honestly that doesn't happen. Like, your babies cannot be sleep trained until they're 3 months. I think Ruchi is here and attended one of her seminars about sleep training the babies, but that also happens at a later phase. You can't sleep train the baby before 3 months. It's very difficult because they're constantly feeding. With twins, it's more difficult to even focus on, training babies, because most of the twins are born preterm. They are born below uh, n- the acceptable normal, to say the normal weight range. So there's a lot of focus on taking care of the baby so that they're able to reach that level. There might be very less pregnancies that are completely 40 weeks done. So most of the babies come out before that. So there is no time to think about yourself, and I'm not going to say anything like focus on yourself and things like that, because I know there's practically no time to think about yourself when you have two babies who are so dependent on you. For everything else, you can get support from your family, but if you're exclusively breastfeeding your babies, then the babies are dependent on you in terms of their nutrition and nourishment. um First of all, it's very, very important that these conversations about role sharing happens before the babies come. And that's something that helped me and my husband, that we were very clear that how do I want support from him? How do I want support from my family? It was clearly decided in advance that okay, these many number of staff we want as help. These are the number of days I want to be with my mother. I feel it's very overwhelming that when you already have babies in your hand and then you have to make all of these decisions, it can get very, very difficult and overwhelming, because in that state of mind, making decision also becomes such a big deal. Like, making a decision also takes so much more time than generally it would take. So most of us have babies now, but if there's anybody who's joined the seminar and who's expecting to deliver, it's very important that these conversations about the support environment that you need begins early on, and not wait for, once the baby comes, then we are going to make a decision. So that's very, very important. Second is, what really helped me is sleep when the baby sleep was not happening. um I remember when I went back home to my mom's house, my husband wasn't staying with me because we also had a dog to take care of in my married house. And he would come every day to spend time with the babies and me. But sooner or later, I think 3 days constantly, I would start crying in the evening, and I wouldn't know the reason why. I had the best support in my mom. I had two staff who was in my room all the time. My dad and my mom's staff, everybody was around, but still I would feel that the moment it would be 6 or 7 in the evening, and I would start crying, and there was no answer to it. Like, why was I sitting and crying when I have so much support and so much help? And I think 3 4 days later, my mom and my husband decided that everything is in place. What's not in place is my sleep, because I was barely sleeping with feeding two babies, getting up every other second. There was no break, no morning, no night. I was just sitting in one corner of the room. The most I would move is to take a shower, or when the japa was there who would massage. Otherwise, there was no movement at all. That's when I took the call that I'm going to sleep for a certain hours in the night, and not with the babies. Now, a lot of mothers can't do it. A lot of mothers wouldn't want to leave their newborn babies without their presence in the room, but clearly for me it wasn't working out. I'm not saying that do what I had done, but make sure that some hours of constant sleep is what you need, which is very very important for your recovery. It's not 1 घंटा अभी सो लिए, 1 घंटा दोपहर को, 1 घंटा शाम को, ऐसे करके दिन में तो हम 6 घंटे सो लिए. That sleep is not going to be helpful. You would need to have certain amount of dedicated hours to sleep, for which we say that, if you have to come feed both the babies, with breast milk, express breast milk, or formula feeding, just do what makes you happy, because pushing yourself to exclusively breastfeed, I feel, just takes more toll on the mother. Though statistically breastfeeding reduces the risk of postpartum depression, but I want to believe that might be for a single child. When there are two babies who have to be fed round the clock, I know it gets very very difficult to then manage your own sleep. So make sure you get that kind of sleep for yourself. I got that sleep for myself, and it really changed the quality of time I was spending with my babies throughout the day. My production was better. I was happier, I was more chirpy through the day to play with the babies. Otherwise, the first 1 week when I was not sleeping, it was really really taking a toll on me. So sleep is very very important. Family needs to support you, because without the family support, you can't just leave your babies with the staff also. They're just too newborn, new into this world to be just left. So family support is very very important. I think what's the next second part is, you you would have to understand that when we talk about support and suggestion, I felt parents who've had single kids don't actually get what you're saying, because they've had a completely different experience. um they would say, "Arey, 2 hours to बच्चे तो बचपन में, like just after they're born, they're sleeping through the day. How are you not getting time for yourself? How are you not getting time to sleep?" But I felt they would not understand that raising one baby and raising two baby are a different ball game altogether, and it's not double the work. It's not 2x. It's actually 3 or 4x of work with twins. What helped me is that I stopped taking advice from mothers of single babies, um, because I felt that they would never understand what I'm going through. And I really, really wish that I had joined this twin tribe group earlier. I joined it probably when kids were already 3 or 4 months old, because I feel the kind of support you get through this group with 500 and more parents who all are parents to twins, that support is very different. Like now, when I look at people messaging that, my 20-day old baby is not sleeping at all, and I was like, okay, whatever we can do to calm this person down, let's do it, because we most of us have gone through that experience. So having the support system which is practically and realistically gone through or are experiencing what you've experienced is very important. Third thing I felt is that the more we read Google searches, the more things we find on Google, the more we are stressing ourselves. I was such a this thing, I would constantly check that, oh, the box says that baby from this week to this week, should be drinking this much milk. Are you know since my babies were also on formula milk, I would constantly look at the chart. That chart would say that babies are drinking 120 ml when they're 1 month old, and my babies would be struggling to have 60 ml. And I would constantly think that, am I doing something wrong? Are my babies not healthy? um every 2 weeks I was standing at the pediatrician's clinic. You check the weight and tell me, is the weight developing okay? All of that, and of course, to some extent, it was very, very anxiety provoking. So all of these charts that we see, most of it, I'll not say all, most of the charts in terms of weight, in terms of how much ml the child is consuming or should be consuming, how much should the baby be doing, the milestone development, are all mostly keeping in mind single babies. So when you're looking at Google and you're looking for all of these questions, make sure that you're typing that what is the required, quantity or development and all of that. Um, by putting in articles that are for twins, the moment you put, what should be a baby's weight at 2 months old, it's mostly going to give you stats for single babies. So don't go by that. Third thing I feel is, um, like I said, it's very important to connect with um, people who are supportive. I feel not all of us are surrounded by, and I can say, um, I was coming to that. Somebody has put it in the chat also. I feel it's very important to take in advice and take in suggestions from people who can relate to what you're going through, in terms of, like I've already said, um, twin mothers would relate to you better than a single mother for sure. But also, when people around you are constantly telling you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough, I think it's more important to convey to yourself, if not to others, that you want to focus on caring and loving your child, instead of striving for perfection in this parental role of yours. Of course, the all the women here who are living with in-laws, it is not easy because they have their own ways. They have had their own ways of raising, their kids, who your partners maybe, um, or things have been very different. Very recently, I remember I was telling somebody that it's important we create that boundary for ourselves. Now, when I say boundary, I'm not saying shut somebody who's older to you telling you what to do. But at the end of the day, do what you feel as a mother is right for your baby. You can take the advice from the world, but you actually put in action only things that you require to put in action for your child. Um, I remember my in-laws also, like my father-in-law would say that, um, this is how it was when in our times this would happen, in our times that would happen. And I told him that, listen, in this time, like salt and sugar being the biggest crisis of these conversation. And in fact, my own mother would say that, you guys have also eaten sugar and salt, like, are you not like healthy? And we tell them that, we were not living in a compromised environment like we are now. There's already, if you're living in Delhi, I don't know how many of you are here who are from Delhi. If you're already living in Delhi, you're already compromising so much in your life by being in this city with so much of pollution. Our fruits and vegetables have so much of preservatives and things like that. Why should we add on to the misery by adding salt and sugar? 20, 25, 30 years back, things were very, very different. And that's my go to statement to anybody who says that, oh, we had done things that way. It is definitely a struggle to convince in laws, um, you know, about how to raise babies, but somewhere you'll have to constantly keep doing what you think is best for your child. Um, yes, Radhika, I hear you when you say that, um, a lot of people don't understand how dealing with twins is very difficult and very different from dealing with a single baby. Just give grace to yourself. You don't need validation coming from anybody else. Let me tell you, nobody needs to validate how good a parent you are. You need to validate yourself every day that you're doing a good job. You're raising twins, you're a super mom, you're doing everything. I want to believe that every mother here and everywhere will always do the best for their child, whether it's feeding, whether it's taking care, whether it's massaging, bathing, all of those. Now, when we talk about self care, I know, like I said, that you generally will not have a lot of time to take care of yourself, but little things that you do for yourself really, really takes you a long way in terms of keeping your mood and emotions in check. Um, take help of your family. If you're living in a joint family, of course, you're taking a lot of negative also, but there's so much positive that you can take, that you can have the baby be with the grandparents for a while. Don't think about 1 hour, 2 hour, even if it is a 15-minute activity or a 5 minute stretching. Something that you do for yourself is really, really important. Tell everybody, I'm going to go for a shower. You take 10 minutes or 20 minutes, it's your time. You want to sit with a cup of tea, sit with a cup of tea, take that 5-10 minutes. It doesn't have to be like 1 hour of quality time for self care. It can be just 15-20 minutes to just pause, breathe, and just be with yourself, um, without the guilt of, oh my god, I'm leaving my babies unattended. A lot of time I've seen women who tend to think about themselves start to feel guilty that, how can I put myself before my kids? But it's very, very important that you take out that little time, and if there's a ritual that you really enjoy, do it. For example, for me, it's really relaxing to just go to a salon and get hair wash done. I don't even go for spa. It is just that 45 minutes of hair wash that I like doing, because it's really annoying for me to wash my hair by myself. I really get very annoyed. Um, I remember it was just 1 week after delivery, and I told my mom, listen, I want to go and get my hair wash done. And my japa was like, नहीं हवा लग जाएगी, scarf पहनो, ऐसे नहीं करते, बाहर तो जा ही नहीं सकते 40 days तक. I was like, listen, I'm not listening to you. And I told my mom, I am going. And I went. I have that picture with me, which reminds me of, you will need to put yourself first. And that's a ritual. I have done it since I have delivered. Every week I've gone for those 45 minutes and got my hair wash done. And I really find that 45 minutes once a week really, really relaxing. So it doesn't even have to be every day. If you can't take out that time for yourself every day, that's okay. So I really suggest, and I'll push you all to take out those 5-10 minutes every day for yourself. If you can't, at least one thing that you do in a week itself starts feeling that, you're getting your life back. um Whenever you think that you need help, seek help. Postpartum depression is not a sign of being a weak mom or being unable to handle motherhood. Or it doesn't speak about that, okay, this is how it's gonna be. It doesn't speak about that आपको पहले से depression था तो अब हो गया. It is just about the situation you have gone through, like 9 months of pregnancy. There's so many ups and downs. There's so many changes in your body post delivery, of course, like Kamala mentioned, that your hormones are all over the place, and they will be all over the place for a couple of more months. It's not the first 2 weeks. Technically, statistically, when you talk about a woman, takes around 6 years post delivery to go back to how probably they were before they had conceived and delivered. And that's not even physically, that's only mentally and hormonally. And 6 years is a long, long time. So, there's so many changes happening. It's okay if you feel that, okay, your low mood is affecting you to an extent. There are very safe medicines that are available. You need to either speak to your gynecologist, or you meet a psychiatrist, or you meet a therapist who can guide you in the right direction. There is no shame in taking help and taking medicines in case medicine is needed. Otherwise, mostly with therapy, also, talking to somebody really, really helps. Whether it's moms on the group, whether it's speaking to me or Kamala, whether it's finding another therapist for you, having somebody just listen to you without giving you 10,000 advice, I think is really, really therapeutic. Because I remember the moment I would start talking to my husband, he would be like, oh, but you can do this, we can do that. But sometimes you don't want to hear anything, you just want to vent. And same as with parents, from a very protective stance, they would want to help you, and all that you want is just somebody who can speak to you and who can help you vent. There are very helpful techniques like relaxation, there's JPMR, there's mindfulness, but probably these are things that we will want to engage with all of you once we start the support groups, and make it more personal experience for all of you. So initially I thought we'll do a little bit of that today, but I feel it's important we do it when we have time, and I think all of you have taken out already an hour for hearing us and for being with us here. So we'll do it when we are fresh for another half an hour, 1 hour next time, whenever we see you guys. Um, I feel a
Um,
biggest. Go ahead.
Sorry, Ruchika, at some point you will also talk about that peer support led.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
group.
We'll close it with that only. Um, I think what really makes a difference, I think, a few of you might have it in your mind that what predisposes somebody to having postpartum depression versus, baby blues, um, is of course genetic, is of course how your family environment is of course how your support system is. And I think a big, big, big um, cause of it, when I see a lot of women, is how your relationship with your partner is. When babies come into the world, it's not just mothers who are taking on a new role, it's fathers as well. Their bodies also go through changes. They I think they have their own set of anxieties and stressors into taking care of you and the babies. A lot of mothers take break from their career, so a lot of financial, burden comes onto the man, um in the household. So they have their own set of stressors, and I feel it's very important to be connected with your partner as to what's going on in their life and what's going on in your life. Like, you have your set of worries, you have your set of, mountains to climb, and they have theirs. But it's very, very important to people who have decided to, bring a life and here two lives into the setup. It's very important to be connected and to take out that 5-10 minutes for each other to have a conversation, just random conversation. My conversation with my husband is always about nannies. आज इसने ये कर दिया, आज उसने वो कर दिया. Poor guy has to keep listening to all of this, but Delhi nannies are not the best business. But we do get that 10-15 minute is something that we try and take out. Of course, we're both working from home. I have started going to work outside, but spending that quality 10 minutes is important. पूरा दिन तो कर ही रहे होते हैं बात, इसका ये उसका वो, babies need this, babies need that, but the conversation should be a focus of what you need and what your partner needs, and I think that also is very, very helpful. um it's not to say that if you don't have that relationship with your partner, um for any reason, that should be a big, big stressor. But of course, if that's something that bothers any one of you, we are happy to help you guys, create your own sense of, then create an own internal locus of how to keep you more happy and alive if you're not getting that support from family. These are few points in my mind, Kamala. Open for you to talk about what worked for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ruchika. I felt like I resonated with a lot of what you shared, and I'm sure many others also felt that, and I think that, just recapping what you said, essentially was that, self-care strategies don't have to seem like what they're in wellness magazines, or what the latest influencers talking about in terms of what self-care is. Self-care is just in the most basic acts of just taking care. It's just the most basic thing. Like Ruchika said, it could be something as simple, or for us right now, as complicated as getting a little bit more sleep time. And I understand that navigating that for everybody could be quite difficult. It could be difficult to tell people that, look, I need to sleep a little bit more, but finding that time to take out a little bit more time to sleep, or take out that one little time for that one little activity that, gives you a sense of solace, whether it's a hair wash, or whether it is, for me, in my case, it was my night shower. For me, that's what it was. It was like in the night, whenever the girls, I have two daughters, whenever they had gone to sleep at whatever time, for however long, it was for me that additional 15-minute shower, that I need to take this time. And I think the one thing that struck me at that time, I remember the first time that, I went in and one of them started crying. I felt this panic welling up, I felt this panic welling up that, oh my God, you're in the shower. And, I like ran literally like, half wet, ran with towel and, like stuck my head out. And funnily, I opened the door and I saw my husband standing there with the baby. And then it kind of, I don't know, it was like a switch clicked in my brain that boss parenting is a two-person job, right? It's not just a one-person job. It's not just a mother's job. And I do get that I come from a place of privilege when I say this. I get that I come from that place of privilege of having a partner who is taking that onus also, equally. I get that I'm coming from that, but I also do realize that some of that is also my own conditioning. It's my own conditioning of thinking that I'm the only one who has to be always available, that I'm the only one who has to be always switched on. And somewhere I think that that act of self care is also in blunting that knife towards myself, and saying that it's okay. It's okay that maybe I can't get it to it this time. Or also telling myself that it's okay. If I take 10 minutes longer to get to my baby, it's okay, but I'm going to get there. So I think that sense of self compassion, just to add on to the lovely strategies that Ruchika spoke of in terms of the self care, taking that time, reaching out for support when it's need be, even if it's talking to a friend, just vocalizing some of these things. I also think that that sense of self compassion, that it's okay, I am doing my best right now. I think giving ourselves that is also really crucial in this journey, because we're in it for the long haul, right? So that's something that's there. And this is just a little bit about my own experience. So I'm just opening it up now. We have about 15 or so, 15 to 20 minutes, I guess, max we've got. So I'm just opening it out now to everyone else for any thoughts that you may have, any perspectives, any questions. If you have, we'd be happy to take them. And then we can also tell you a little bit more after hearing your thoughts, questions, perspectives. We can also probably tell you a little bit more about, tell you a little bit more about the support group that we're going to be starting off. I see a comment on the chat. I'm just going to read it out. It says, please tell on how to have healthy boundaries with in-laws who are traditional and don't believe in the current standards, even if it's coming from our pediatrician. They seem offended when I talk about the new findings and practices and saying that they brought up so many children in their family. My husband is a picky eater and they think they did an amazing job. It's putting me in a very difficult position to deal with, and I'm going through a lot with very little help, and this is stressing me out. Jivita, first of all, thank you for sharing your experience, and I can imagine that this is a very stressful place to be in, right? You're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. These are your in-laws, and having to kind of set this boundary and battle this out can be quite challenging with all the other things that you have going on. So first off, thank you for sharing that. And any thoughts, Ruchika? You want to share anything before we go ahead? Any ideas for her?
I always say it's very, very difficult convincing your in-laws. But my first question is, Jivita, do you get any support from your partner, as in your husband, that okay, whatever you want or whatever the pediatrician is saying, is he communicating it or are you communicating it? Because I think when a son communicates, the in-laws are very different, and when a daughter-in-law communicates, the conversation is very different. So just give me a little clarity onto it, and then we'll help you out. In the meantime, we'll answer what Gitanjali has asked. Okay, you've answered. I feel you have to
Right.
choose your battles, is what I feel, Jivita. There are certain battles that you have to let go if you're living in a joint setup, and then there are certain things that you can be very, very assertive about. For example, um, how to massage a baby is an example I'll give. So a lot of older school of thought is that you need to put oil on the scalp, you need to put oil in the navel, you need to put oil here and there and pinch the nose and XYZ. Um, I felt that was quite unsafe, and so I put my foot down that I had told my husband also that we're not going to go through this. What is his viewpoints? A lot of times we have had common thoughts, so it was a little easier to navigate that. That okay, this is not what our child is going to go through. But then if there are other things like they want to feed the baby some biscuit or some rust, and when the baby is 8 months old, I'm like, okay, do it. Next time, what I do is I don't always send the babies down when I know it's their tea time, because those biscuit and rusk will only come out at tea time. So I try and push those hours. So it's just very diplomatically trying to handle. For some things, we say it's okay, karne do. Most of the time, the baby is not consuming all of that, all of those things. So there has to be a little back and forth. I know you can't be like, okay, it's my child, I will decide. Living in a joint setup in an Indian system, you can't be like that, that my child, my property, I will decide. वो नहीं होगा. Just try convincing them. I know you must have already done that, but it's just over and over and over and over again and again saying the same things. What also helped is one time I took my in-laws to me, to the pediatrician. Ki I told my husband, you act that you don't have time for this. And I took them instead, and then made them sit at the pediatrician's room and then asked all of those questions in front of the doctor that, okay, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And kept saying no, 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 no. And that helped me a little navigate a few of these situations. So if that's an option, do it. Best is to keep asking your husband to support you in this and be like, okay, this is not, I'm not comfortable with this. It's on you. How do you want to convince your parents? So we both convince our side of the families. It's not that my parents are very distinct. They also are like, कोई बात नहीं, थोड़ा सा खा लेगा, क्या हो जाएगा. But I convince them, and he has to convince his side of the family. But
Yeah.
again, 1% इधर उधर, ऑयल की मसाज ऐसे हो गई नहीं वैसे हो गई, ये सोप नहीं वो सोप, ये थोड़ा सा खा लिया, it's not going to harm your baby to that extent that you need to fight it out every moment, until and unless you really feel as a parent it's against what you want for your child.
Absolutely. And just echoing what Ruchika said, I think that, a first step would just kind of be that clarity for ourselves, that what are our non-negotiables. I think that once we are set on, okay, these are the non-negotiables for me as far as, my parenting, practices or the environment that I want to set up for my baby is, then it becomes easier to kind of navigate or let go of some of the other things, because you also don't want to be in a conflict situation constantly. That's not a very healthy environment either. And I think that what could also what could perhaps also be helpful, and you may have already done this, many times, is that sometimes sometimes we don't realize it when it becomes an us versus them. I think what helped me, when sometimes even my mom, or somebody older, typically it's usually somebody older in the family, or somebody would kind of offer a piece of advice or offer a piece of information. I think the one reminder that helped me was that, they are coming from a really good place, right? They're coming from the place of wanting the best for my baby. So whether it's their grandchild, or, their grandniece or grandnephew, they're coming from that place. So I think that when I also internalize that messaging, that, what, they also want the best for this child, I was able to stop seeing it as a me versus you. I was kind of able to start seeing it as, okay, is there something that I can collaboratively learn from you on? Because there's a lot of wisdom that we can gain from them. But there are also certain things that science tells us differently now. So we are learning. So I feel that sometimes making them a part of that decision making, making them a part of these processes can be helpful and a healthier way to, manage that manage those different points. Going to Gitanjali's question of what does therapy entail while curing postpartum depression. Gitanjali, thank you for your question. Now, typically, if you look at a therapy process, the whole idea behind therapy is actually the complete opposite. A lot of times in like a media, in the media, therapy is kind of spoken of as the place where people will give you advice on what you have to do in your life, right? But actually, that's not at all the case. The therapist is not going to be giving advice on, on how you can live your life or what you need to do. The whole when you speak to a therapist, they help you to understand your own perspectives, your own patterns of behavior, your own emotions, your own feelings, and work with you. They facilitate that process of being able to manage your emotions better, handle the way that you're feeling a little bit better, engage with your own family, your children better. So in the case of postpartum depression, as you raised, a large part of it would be to understand your current experience, understand some of the triggers that you may be facing, understand a little bit about your own past experience. Because when it comes to PPD, it's not just about, the post pregnancy part that matters. It's also about how was the entire pregnancy for you? What was that process like? How did this journey unfold? So going through that entire process, each therapist there are different schools of thought as far as therapy goes, because people are trained in different ways, so they may use different techniques. But that is something that you will get to kind of explore when you speak to a therapist. So for example, I use a lot of narrative therapy and approaches in my work. I also use like dialectical behavior therapy and, approaches from there, which each therapist will be able to kind of explain to you that what can you expect from these sessions, what is a guideline number of sessions that, maybe we can work together. Though therapists will typically tell you over a period of time, they won't tell you in the number of sessions, but they'll say that, okay, maybe we can work together for like, 3 months or 6 months, and, take it from there. So this is kind of what, therapy would entail when it comes to working on handling postpartum depression. Did I answer your question? Did you have any other follow-up questions to that? Or Ruchika, if you have anything to add to it, please feel free if there's anything.
No, I think you've mentioned absolutely briefly what therapy would entail. Gitanjali just mentioned she's lost her network, I think, in between. So Gitanjali, I hope you've got the answer. It's really to help you navigate motherhood. It's to help you navigate any kind of negative conversation that's constantly going on in your head. It's to help you navigate how you can deal with your home situation, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your in-laws, or what kind of support system you have. So therapy is all about just having that safe space where somebody who's experienced can help you, um, you know, sail through this phase, which is temporary. So whatever you're experiencing, whatever anybody who goes through PPD or postpartum blue is experiencing, just remember it's temporary. You can get out of it. It's not lifelong, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And And despite going through all of this, you still being a great mother. So give yourself that credit, that you're doing all of what your body and the resources you have, you using all of it 100%. Just that with therapy you can just change the perspective with which you're doing things,
Yeah.
and that will just help you regain those resources. If of course it is to an extent of extreme hormonal changes or certain imbalances in the body, then probably medication is also needed, but the therapist is the best person to tell you in that moment, would you need medicine or would therapy be just enough? So trust the person you're going to, and they'll help you out with that.
There's another
Great.
question on C-sections with preterm babies and will we get milk production from day one? Uh, I'm so sorry, but I am not entirely qualified to answer this question. The only thing that I can say is I had a preterm baby. So, from my own lived experience, I can share with you my babies were preterm, and essentially, you have to. So, I was advised at the hospital to start pumping after they were born. They went to the NICU and I had to, I mean, I didn't start pumping on day one. I actually started pumping on day three, I think, because for the first 2 days, it was also just my own recovery at that point in time. But I started pumping as soon as I could, and the milk production started coming in. So, what really does help is to have a hospital grade pump. And yeah, that's something that's helpful. I think
I
there was
think,
another.
yeah, yeah, I think I am also not a lactation expert here, but same that from day second I started pumping, and um, I started to have my
Yeah.
production from second day evening.
Yeah.
However, the doctor said it's okay to even not have milk production by the fourth day also.
Hmm.
Um, just make sure you're in touch with your gynae when you're in the hospital. You're in touch with the lactation consultant. Eat the nurse's head all the time. Get me the pump. Get me the pump. If the babies are out of NICU, or they can, whatever they suggest, just keep talking to the hospital staff and to your doctor, and they'll give you that kind of support. So
And I know it's not very helpful advice right now. It wasn't helpful for me back then because I was stressed about it. But stress is a killer for breast milk. Huh? So, as much as I sound very cliched by saying try not to stress about it, just try your best not to. Just trust that it'll happen. It will. You just need to pump.
yeah, I pumped
Bhakti,
the
I
whole
I
think,
think
second day, and I pumped the whole second day, and when the
yeah.
milk didn't come, I told my husband that the pump is kharab. You get me the pump from home. So he's like, "Are you stupid? You go mad! Like, stop it!" And finally, he got me the pump from home, and I started using that. But I think it was just natural for me to have the
Yeah.
production by second day end. It wasn't to do with the pump, but Gitanjali, yes, any sort
Yes.
of and poor nutrition and poor sleep can all lead to low milk production. So it's not just the extreme PPD that would lead to low milk production,
Yeah.
but even if you're not eating healthy or you're not sleeping,
Or
your
drinking
production,
enough water.
yeah, your production will be affected. So I say that, and I think that's Ruchika Twin Tribe's favorite line also. Um, a happy mother is more important than what are you feeding the child. All kids grow up, and all kids will grow up healthy, whether it's breastfeeding them, whether it's pumping, whether it's formula feed. You need to be happy because your attachment with the baby begins from day one. If you're not happy, you're stressed constantly, you're kind of putting that vibe and energy in the house and the environment. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're feeding, just do it happily.
I think there's a raised hand. Bhakti wants to ask a
Yeah,
question.
Bhakti, I think, has a question.
Hey, hi. So, I am an exclusively breastfeeding mom. My
Right.
kids are 5.5 months currently, and the problem is that they wake up so much at night, and because I am directly feeding,
Yeah,
it's taking a lot of toll on my sleep, which
of
makes me
course.
really irritated in the morning, and I'm not able to spend quality time with my kids because of that.
Mm.
So, yeah, like I don't know, like in fact, this session is very helpful because today morning itself I was so irritated and getting like reacting to small things. So yeah, I'm not sure how it can become better, but yeah, if there is any suggestion, that would be great.
Thank you, Bhakti, for sharing, and kudos to you for, for what you're doing. I just want to understand one thing, Bhakti, again, not from a lactation perspective at all, but just from a lived experience perspective and from a mental health perspective. I just want to understand that do you only nurse them directly, or do you also use express breast milk?
I'm nursing directly.
Okay. So I mean, the one thought that comes to my mind to maybe try and help you just get a little bit more sleep is a bit of a logistical thing actually. I'm just wondering whether it may be useful for you to invest in a breast pump, even if it's a manual pump, or any sort of breast pump that you can, to help you just express the breast milk, so that maybe in the nights or maybe the early morning feeds or something like that, maybe somebody else can handle that, because you're anyway nursing them otherwise throughout the day. So if you have some help,
Mhm.
maybe if your husband can, or if you have a parent or an in-law or anyone like a nanny or someone who can give them an express breast milk bottle at that time, is that a feasible option?
Yeah, I was expressing earlier when my kids were sleeping better, like 5, 6 hours at a stretch, and suddenly like they are waking up very frequently. And I used to express in the morning hours. But I think
Okay.
yeah, I'll have to figure out a time when I can express and get a good quantity at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, usually the early mornings, or like that very early morning time is usually a good time to kind of get
Yeah.
quite a good quantity. So maybe what you can do is, if you pump for a few days and get a little bit of milk, in bottles,
Hmm.
then that'll help you get a couple of more hours sleep, because somebody else can take that bit over.
Hmm. Okay. But yeah, I just wanted to understand lack of sleep does trigger this, right? Irritation and uh
Definitely.
okay.
Definitely. It can make you very irritable. It can make you feel quite frustrated, and, like make you a little bit snappy, and, all of these things. And also you will feel physically more tired as well, with the lack
Yeah.
of sleep.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. I'll try that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Sanyogita also, I think. Please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, like now you mentioned about bottles, right? So I just had an experience that I started giving bottle feeds to the babies, but after I started that, actually, it made me more guilty. Like I'm not choosing feeding my babies directly and just giving them bottle time. And this ended up reducing my time spent with the babies also. And moreover, like even after bottle feeds, they started playing nicely with my parents and my in-laws and all. But then that made me feel guilty again. Like, am I really needed here? Like, if they're happy with the bottles, then why not just go for bottles only? Why am I needed here? Like, I start questioning my existence after that. So I reduced bottle feeds again, and then I came back to exclusive breastfeeding. So I just had a thought when you mentioned about bottle feeds.
Sanyogita, I can totally relate to you. A lot of times what started to happen when, and I think in twin moms, it's a little more difficult to give grace to yourself. My one baby was very colicky, the other one wasn't, so he would get a lot of attention from his dad, me, nanny, and the other one would be with the nanny. Um, and over a period of time, the colicky baby got better, and the other one started to realize that, oh, I'm not getting this family attention at all. So, and I was very against co-sleeping, but since this baby was getting very cranky, not the colicky, the other one, I started to sleep with my other baby, and the colicky baby who got used to pacify and self-soothing would sleep with the nanny. And I started to feel very bad that, oh, I'm sleeping with one child, I'm not sleeping with the other. But then again, as a mother, I feel what's more important is that both the babies have equal sense of attachment when they're with me, whenever it is. There were times when my one baby would only calm down in one of the nanny's godi. Not in my godi, not in my husband, not in anybody, but that one nanny's godi, who has been a constant. So I started to feel that, does my baby even know I'm the mother and that one is not the mother? But then we laugh it off because there is so much that you can do with handling two babies, taking care of yourself, and also running the household. You know, Add to it probably 6 months later, whenever you plan to work or you don't plan to work, that's completely on you. If there's a working woman, then the addition pressure of going back to work. One thing that has helped me is that you can't constantly be there for both the kids. You can't constantly be there for, both at the same time. You can't be there for both at certain hours of the day. It's absolutely okay. If your babies are happy, they need to have a happy, secure environment, whether it's with you, the support staff, in-laws, grandparents, whoever they are. What needs to be done for the first 1 year is that they're safe and they're well fed and they're slept well, their hygiene is taken care of. Whether you're doing it or support staff is doing it, grandparents are doing it, whoever is doing it, that's the most important thing. The kids are going to be with you. um, we have read and studied attachment theories. The child needs to have a healthy attachment with a caregiver. Now that caregiver can be anybody. Over a period of time, you are going to be the parent, you're going to be spending the most amount of time with your child. Grandparents are there, by God's grace, they live long enough. Staff stays, comes, goes. You are the one constant person in your child's life for the rest of their life. So however you want to give them that affection now, give it, but don't be too hard on yourself, is what I'm going to tell you. Because our body also has limited resources. After a point of time, we are going to end up not having any resource to even cater to one child then. So, use your time wisely, give attention to both of them. um it's okay to have the baby be happy and healthy around other people. So what you're thinking, the thoughts are very, very validated. They exist. A lot of us go through that. It's very normal to think like that. um but make sure that you are being healthy and happy as well. You want to feed your kids directly, nurse them directly, great, do it. You think they're happy with bottle and they're happy accommodating with other people in the household, let your child be. It's a very good sign that the kids are happy with other people in the house and they're not clinging on to you. Because after a point of time, it will get very difficult then. you know
Yeah.
Thanks. It's just that you get a little bit jealous sometimes.
it's very
Of
natural for
course.
you to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have any other questions? Kamala, why don't you help everybody with the support group? I can also go. You can.
Sure. Sure. So first up, guys, thank you so much. I do realize that we are a little bit over time already. So thank you so much for your time, for your attention, for being here with us today. This is essentially just an absolute introduction that we wanted to do just from a concept clarification and an initiation of a conversation around mental health. Honestly, this is just the very beginning. What we have envisioned is the creation of a small support group that will start from now on, and we are planning to do a fortnightly meeting. So, twice a month, this group will meet, and we'll kind of circulate the timing as well. I think we're planning to keep it, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're planning it at a fixed time, right? Which will just be
At a similar time,
repeated.
which is Friday evening. Yeah.
Yeah, at a similar time on a Friday, we're kind of planning that. And essentially, it's a group that will meet online like this. And whoever is free to, whoever feels like they would like to join in, whoever feels like there's any sort of a concern that they have that maybe they'd like to share, just be around different people, just get multiple perspectives, just share in the experience together. The support group is open for that. It's related to our mental health. So what I want to say is that please don't feel that, oh my God, I can only, come and be in this group if I feel like I have this experience of postpartum depression or something like that. That's not the case. The group is a mental health oriented group. It's a support group that's focused on, creating a space that is safe and non-judgmental for us to share any distress that we may be going through, any concerns that we may be going through, talk through anything that we feel that we may need some additional support with. And For the start, either Ruchika or myself or both of us will be present for all of these groups. And the vision that we have for it is that over a period of time, if there's anybody else who is also interested in just picking up this skill to facilitate the group, we'd be happy to kind of support them in being able to do that as well. So this is something that we're looking to start off with, in the next couple of weeks, and it'll be like a fixed twice a month meeting that we will do. There's no pressure to attend all of them. You can just drop in for one, you can drop in for 10, how many ever you would like to drop in for. Ruchika, anything else that you guys would like to add, both of you?
No, I think you've covered it well, Kamala. I think we get a lot of textual support from each other with Ruchika's
Yeah.
twin group. And I have a habit that whenever I get up, I am always on the group and I read all the chats. I don't miss any. Where I feel somebody has gotten an answer, great, and I've not added myself to any other group because of my um habit to respond, and it gets very overwhelming for me to be on so many groups and responding on each one of them. um so this group has been a great support textually, but I think we want to extend that to kind of face to face online sessions where people can come and talk about whatever they want to talk about. You might be having a bad day and it happens to be on that specific day, come and talk about it. It's your venting space. And we'll also equip all of you with techniques that you can help yourself with. Ruchika, over to you.
No, I think that's all. Thank you so much, Kamala, and thank you so much, Ruchika, for sharing your thoughts, for basically telling us more about what we might be going through and how to self-diagnose if we need help, and just some general strategies which I think on any day, even if I hear, it's just a good reminder to myself to be kind to myself and to know that it's okay. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much, for sharing your experience and expertise. And to all the moms for joining and taking out this time, which I know is not easy. We will get back to you with the schedule for the first support group session. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to message me. We will be sharing the recording of the session also. And if at any point in time, if the support group discussion is a bit far away and you feel like talking, I think I can vouch, I can say this on behalf of all three of us, that we are just a message away. I mean, just drop us a
Absolutely.
message and we will connect with you.
Absolutely. And I also just want to share that if at all you feel that, you would like to, message any of us independently, also just feel free to send us a text. And, even if I may not respond immediately, I will get to it and I will come back, on messages as well. So if there's anything, please do feel free to reach out.
Yeah, same. Yeah, we're just a message away, just a call away. Calls, I think we have to schedule because we don't
Yeah.
always pick up calls these days.
Yeah.
Uh, but message us anytime. We'd be more than happy to answer whatever we can. If not, if there's something like you're asking about sleep or lactation, we can, Kamala and I can only share what we have gone through and what our experiences are. But we can definitely get you, Ruchika can also get you connected to the right kind of people for nutrition and for sleep and all of that. The amazing moms on the group for
Absolutely.
sleep and nutrition. So yeah, just get in touch. We'd be happy to help.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. And see you again.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. See
Have a
you.
great
Bye.
evening. Bye.